right, good afternoon, everyone. My name is Udi Ledergor. I'm the Chief Evangelist here at Gong, and we're excited to have you with us today on this talk on how AI is transforming the sales profession. Together with me today, I have Dan Morgese. Dan leads our thought leadership and research here at Gong's marketing team, and he's going to be my go-to expert as we dive into a lot of our recent studies and research on AI and sales. So let's dive in. Here's an interesting stat from a recent sales engagement survey that we ran here at Gong. Dan, tell us what we're looking at.
Yeah, absolutely. So again, thanks to the team for having us today. Excited to dive into this stat and many more. So in March of 2023, this year, we asked over 600 sales professionals whether or not they were leveraging AI as part of their go-to-market or sales process. And what we found is that roughly 25%, so about a quarter, are already using AI in some capacity at their organization, but another 26% have it on their roadmap for this fiscal year. So in the next 12 months, and that was in March of 2023, they had planned to implement AI, meaning that it's going to double over the course of 12 months. Obviously, it's a hot topic. This event is all about AI for go-to-market teams. So the business is booming, to say the least.
So the point here is, if you're a sales leader listening to us here today and you're not already experimenting or creating a roadmap for incorporating AI with your team, you're kind of already behind. Now,
Precisely.
I know we found several ways the teams were using AI and experimenting with it on their roadmap, but these were the main four. Walk us through these, Dan, and tell us what surprised you about this.
Yeah, so to double click on the first question that we asked folks, so are you using it? What we wanted to understand is why they were using it, right? So what were the perceived benefits or the realized benefits if they were already implementing AI into their go-to-market process? And this was what they said, and this is prioritized based on the popularity of the answer choice. So first and foremost, automating seller activity. I think this is what most of us probably think of, at least with generative AI, that it's going to reduce the time that my sellers are spending on certain tasks. So again, not surprised by that one. Second was seller guidance, right? So guiding winning behaviors or the to-do lists, prioritizing tasks of your sellers. Third was informing go-to-market strategy, which I think, especially for the leaders listening and joining the event today, is something that should be top of mind for them, understanding a single source of truth and intelligence to run your business. And then unfortunately, I was kind of bummed when I saw this because I think there's tons of implications of AI to be leveraged to improve the customer and buying experience. But this was 4 out of about a list of 7 or 8. So still a top choice on the top half or top 50%, but would love to see this one higher up, because at the end of the day, if we're not creating a delightful customer experience, we're kind of missing the mark altogether. But there is perceived benefits, and we're going to dive into each of these 4 in more detail and show you how winning organizations are already doing those things.
I will say to the sales leaders out there that all hope is not lost, because as you'll soon see, by actually implementing AI to automate a lot of your sellers' activity and guide them on next steps, you're kind of already improving your buyer experience even without making it a focus area. So even though your sellers put that as number 4, you're going to be improving that as a side effect of working on the first priorities anyway. So let's dive into the first one, which was automating seller activity. Tell us what the problem here is that AI is trying to solve, and then let's look at some of the solutions that AI is already offering sales teams.
Yeah, so Forrester runs a study, and there's probably hundreds of stats around seller productivity, but this is one, particularly at Gong, that we use quite often, and that's less than a quarter of your rep's time is actually spent selling. So that's what Forrester refers to as core direct selling. So core selling activities, directly engaging with customers or prospects. And unfortunately, what the other 3/4 of the time that they're spending on is not revenue generating tasks. And so that's things like data entry into the CRM or other disparate systems. That's doing call follow-up or taking notes. That's expense reports and like a lot of the administrivia that is super time consuming for our sellers as well. And so the goal here is to how can we minimize those non-revenue generating tasks? And hopefully the answer is a lot of these new AI solutions that teams are starting to adopt.
This is crazy. So we're paying 6 and sometimes 7-figure salaries to sellers that are only spending less than a quarter of their time doing their core selling with customer-facing calls. Am I reading that right?
Correct. And unfortunately, not only are you paying them to only spend a quarter of their time there, but they don't enjoy doing those other 3/4 of the task most time. Most of your sellers and the top sellers want to spend time with customers, engaging with customers and closing deals.
So even if AI could free up just 10% more of their time, that would bring them to like a 50% increase of the percentage of time they're spending customer facing. That's a huge opportunity. Now I'm on the edge of my seat. So Dan, tell us, how is AI going to help free up more time for core selling activities?
Well, our value engineering team did an analysis and took a simple tasks like drafting a follow-up email, right? So we had a sales call, things went well, we set up some next steps, maybe we're going to send over some content. Let's think of things maybe from 3 or 4 years ago. So I'm a seller. I end that call with Udi. I'm selling you my widget. You said you needed XYZ integrations, and I have some great marketing materials that I could send over from our product marketing team following the call. I would need to synthesize all of that information, probably take notes live, and actually maybe not be able to engage with you the way I wanted to. I would have to review my notes, go and find the proper piece of content, draft up in context, hopefully personalize that email. Maybe you said, you were going to a concert that weekend, create that personal connection and that personal touch. The great thing is now, again, maybe something that took me, let's say 20 minutes, we can do that in under 2 minutes with generative AI built into platforms. And so we're seeing a 10x return on the time spent, or I'm sorry, basically minimizing that time to 1/10 of what we saw previously 3 or 4 years ago with generative AI.
That's pretty amazing. So AI is already helping, and you can get this in a variety of tools, but only very few of them do the whole platform and really provide a place for your reps and teams to live in. But you can already use these AI tools to draft an email as if a human wrote it in the style that you want, in the length that you want, and personalize it to your prospect based on their previous experiences with your organization, correct?
Correct.
That's incredible. So that's one really important way that teams are already using AI to make their sales reps more efficient and free up more of their valuable time for their core selling activities. Let's look at some of the other ways the teams are experimenting with AI right now. Specifically, after automating away a lot of the grunt work and the busy work, there's still a lot of things that humans are still uniquely qualified to do, but they could use some guidance and prioritization to make sure that nothing slips between the cracks, no lead gets left behind, and that they know that when they clock off at 5 p.m. or whatever time they do it, that they didn't forget any crucial tasks that they need to do that day. So first, maybe tell us about the importance of timely follow-up with leads. What have you found in your research, Dan?
Yeah, so I think we touched on like reducing time, increasing maybe efficiency, but let's talk about effectiveness, right? And so understanding, are we doing the right things in the right way at the right time? And to your point, timing plays a critical role in sales. Obviously, it's harder than ever to get a hold of buyers. So creating a very seamless and hopefully truncated sales cycle throughout is vital for success for any seller. What we did is an analysis of understanding the seller response time. So again, sending that follow-up email, replying to an inquiry from a customer or a prospect. And we found that those who respond within 24 hours significantly impact or increase their win rate. I think on the next slide, we see the actual impact it also has to deal duration. So to summarize, we're winning more in less time. So we're minimizing deal duration and increasing win rate.
So I think any sales professional looking at these slides is probably not surprised by the effect the timely follow-up has. But now, maybe for the first time, sellers actually have a way to ensure that they do this follow-up without having to go crazy with drowning in their inboxes with their emails and their Slacks and their LinkedIn inboxes, and it can just become overwhelming. But now if you have one hub that guides you through your to-do list, and all of this is run by AI, so if something more urgent comes in, it gets bumped to the top. And by following this very sort of simple guidance, you can now accomplish a lot more and actually bring to life all these statistics that we all knew of, but could never really live up to the standards that we wanted to hold ourselves to of timely follow-up, right? And this is what it might look like in an AI product like Gong, where we see the AI to-dos, we see the flow to-dos. Flow is similar to what you might know as a cadence or a sequence, just means you already have someone who is in a flow that you need to bump or nudge because they might be back from an out of office. And there's one-off to-dos, like if you just ended a call and you need to email someone the case study that you've promised them or send them a reference customer that they asked for, then AI will remind you of doing that again. So it's really like having your own little Robin. If you think of yourself as a Batman, you've got your own Robin who's in your ear whispering all these things that you need to do that you cannot yet automate. But if you get the help with guiding and prioritizing you, you're going to become a much more effective sales machine.
Yeah, and just to add, the thing I love about that is Robin understands what has worked well in the past and then gives you those tips and tricks and recommendations and prioritization based on the likeliness to win each of those deals. So especially think about a junior seller who might not know how to prioritize their workflows or their tasks for the day. It's going to kind of lead them with breadcrumbs to the promised land.
That's a great point, Dan. So it's not just a simple algorithm that's bumping up things in your calendar. It's actually looking at the anatomy of what closed won deals on your team look like, who needs to be involved, what time and what channel should you reach out with, and then it bumps those things up to really give you the best chance of succeeding and closing more deals. That's a really great point. So let's look at the third area, which is informing go-to-market strategy. Let's talk a little bit about the challenge first, and then let's talk about how AI can help.
Yeah, absolutely. So we've been talking about our sellers, right? And rightfully so. They're generating revenue for the business, but what are the implications to leadership and how can they lean into AI and its applications for go-to-market teams? Last year, we partnered with Harvard Business Review and ran a study of go-to-market leaders wanting to understand their priorities for the year, the challenges that they're facing. And this overwhelmingly was a really glaring problem, with 2/3 of organization telling us that they don't have real-time insights into how their go-to-market initiatives are performing. So when we think of go-to-market initiatives, we think of those big bets, new product launches, maybe a new acquisition, maybe something even more simple as rolling out a new sales methodology or product marketing, putting together, new branding or new go-to-market messaging, right? Understanding, are our folks adopting it? Is it impactful? If it's not impactful, how do we go and change and course correct those things? So that it is a good investment and a wise investment for the business.
Right. If you've ever been in either a sales or a marketing leadership position, you know this dilemma comes up very often in real life. Usually marketing puts together a new talk track. Maybe it's for a new product launch or just updating the talk track on an existing product because the economy has changed or the competitive situation has changed. And now you've got two challenges. One of them is trying to enforce the sales team to use the new talk track, but you don't really have proof that it works. So you're up against a lot of pushback because folks are just going to do what they're used to and what is easier for them. And then once you do actually get that rolled out, even you as the marketer or the product marketer who put together this messaging, you don't know with great confidence, is this selling more or less or about the same as the last talk track? So now, perhaps for the first time in the history of sales and marketing alignment, AI can give us these answers. Let's look at what that could actually look like. So this is what tracking adoption of a new talk track would actually look like in a product like Gong. Right? So we can see day by day and week by week how the adoption is going up, if it's going down, and if we double click on it, we can see which teams have already adopted the new talk tracks, which teams could use more reinforcement, and we could further double click down to the individual level. We can see that Sarah is using the new talk track in 80% of her calls, and Jonathan is using it only in 20% of his calls. So we can go and find out what's going on there. But this is where it really gets exciting. Not only don't we have to wait 6 months to see who's actually using it and then run around the sales floor asking people, do they like it? Do they use it? We can actually see this in real time. But where it gets super exciting, and I'm genuinely excited as a marketer, because this is how we do things on our team here at Gong, we can see with a simple initiative board like this, what is the efficacy of the new talk track? Is it selling more or less or about the same as the old talk track, and by how much? Now, armed with this information showing that the new talk track is selling at a higher win rate than the old talk track, I can now go to the sales leadership and say, you've got to be crazy not to use the new talk track. Look what it's doing for the folks already using it. So this is a huge advancement in how sales and marketing teams can stay aligned and how the entire go-to-market organization can know how the adoption of the new talk track or any strategic initiative is going, and more importantly, what is the efficacy of the new talk track? Anything that you would add to this, Dan?
Yeah, I think the one thing is folks might look at this and say, well, we rolled out a new sales methodology, a new messaging, and we have a checkbox, let's say, or a field in CRM that kind of like is like, yes, this is what was used throughout the deal. Or maybe our managers go in and are responsible for listening to some call recordings of sales calls and say, oh, yes, they are using our new slide deck, for instance. The real impact of AI here is the scalability and accuracy of actually identifying these behaviors or these initiatives. AI is within the context of your business can now understand full concepts. So we're not looking for keywords even. We're understanding the actual concepts. Seller A might do a slightly different talk track than seller B and exclude a word that was kind of the key indicator for that initiative. AI now understands that context and can surface these things so they're not missing what was previously missed with just maybe, let's say, like a keyword tracker. So really, really exciting time. I use this all the time as a content marketer to see the impact of my programs and the content I'm producing. So love this third selling point for AI.
That's a great addition. Just to bring it to life for folks who have not seen this before, that means that if you're trying to track how someone is talking about pricing, if you're using some old legacy conversation intelligence systems, you might have to think up yourself of all the different ways that someone could be talking about pricing. Are they saying price or pricing or price list? But with Gong's new smart trackers, which are contextual and semantic, all you have to do is spend a couple of minutes training the models, and then it will pick up on any way that someone talks about pricing, whether or not they use the exact words that you thought they would use or not. So if a customer says, hey, we're hiring more salespeople, we'll need more licenses. Notice I didn't say the word price or pricing in any way or form, but Gong's AI algorithm will pick up that they're having a pricing conversation. Or if someone says, we're actually cutting down, so we're going to use fewer than we were using before, again, Gong will pick up on this. And you mentioned this in passing, but I think it's worth dwelling on for another moment. Different salespeople operate in different ways. We know that often entry-level salespeople like using the decks that marketing prepared for them because they're a great crutch for keeping their talk track. So if they are using the deck, Gong can read the titles of the slides, just like the one you're looking at right now, and know that they're using the new deck. But some of the more seasoned, usually enterprise reps, they don't want the decks because they want to speak more freely and not feel like they're giving a show, but actually work more on their report, and they've got the confidence to do this. So Gong will analyze everything that they're saying after it's been transcribed and figure out, using those smart trackers, if or not they're using the new talk track, whether or not they're using the slide deck that Gong can read, or whether they're using a verbal talk track. So all these different ways, with literally not having to lift a finger on your side, can be tracked now with the new AI technology. So super exciting advancements, and we're already seeing how this is changing and reshaping how sales team go to market. So the fourth and last thing that you found in your research, Dan, was that sellers are looking to improve their customer experience using AI. So tell us a little bit more first about the challenge and then about the solutions.
Yeah, so this is another one from our good friends at Forrester. So biannually, they run a B2B buying study. So asking essentially, have you made a B2B purchasing decision in the past 6, 12, 18 months? And ask them, in excruciating detail, all the different potential interactions and activities they might have done throughout that decision-making process. This year, they asked essentially satisfaction and dissatisfaction with the vendor that was the winning provider. So this is the folks that they're buying from. And this was really interesting. They found that 90%, 9 out of 10 of those respondents said there was one or more detail of the buying experience that they were dissatisfied with. And these are the winners. So you can imagine all those, vendor 2, 3, and 4 on their short list probably made a few more blunders here. So the idea is, how can we start to leverage technology, enable our sellers to hopefully minimize this dissatisfaction and create a delightful customer experience, one that folks rave about, rather than, in 2025, when Forrester runs this study, we see this number hopefully decrease rather than increase again.
Well, I can identify with this experience. I know that if I call my cable provider, I get passed around to 3 or 4 different people, and I get asked all the same questions over again, everything from my identifying details to what problem I'm experiencing to why I called in the first place. And it's very frustrating once you have to start reciting your information for the second or third time. But I have a feeling that AI can come to the rescue. So tell us how that would look like.
Yeah, so that's a great call and a great segue into hopefully how we're going to combat that lack of alignment or lack of transparency or visibility for all internal team members that are working or getting tapped in or tagged in rather to an opportunity or a deal. So this is what we call in Gong a call spotlight, and that's based on the opportunity in a single call or at the account level. What the heck is going on? What's involved in the deal? What are their concerns? What are their integrations that they need? So think about a solutions engineer or a specialist role coming in as an overlay to answer more technical questions. They want all of that context, all of that discovery that the SDR did before handing off to the AE, all of the nitty-gritty detail that the AE has discussed thus far in the deal. This is something as someone who is in the professional services, research and advisory field, we have reps that are trying to translate really complex problems, and it's often really hard to get that from 40 words in a CRM field of what the heck am I going to deliver to folks on that sales call or during that customer interaction. And this account spotlight, again, really minimizes the need for all of those notes, and usually probably inadequate notes, and gives you directly from the customer's mouth a synthesization or distillation of what their concerns and what the highlights of that opportunity are.
I mean, as an executive, I get called into customer calls every couple of days. And up until now, if I wanted to know what happened in a 1-hour conversation, I had to listen to a 1-hour conversation to get the gist of it. That's very, very time consuming. Now, it takes me about 30 seconds to read the call spotlight. And even better, Gong now aggregates not just what happens on individual calls and emails, but what's happening overall in a single opportunity as a whole. So I can understand where the opportunity stands, where the risks are, where I could be most helpful and provide value to the rep that I'm trying to help. So anyone who's ever thought of bringing in an executive but dreaded the time that it would take to bring them up to speed and understand what's going on, this now literally takes seconds where it used to take many, many minutes or hours before. So Dan, thank you for sharing all this amazing research. As we bring things home, I want to end with a couple of slides with some hopefully actionable advice. So as many of you are already looking to incorporate AI in your sales team, here are a few considerations you should probably think about. So when looking at it as a tool for boosting sales engagement and other aspects of sales productivity that can autonomously draft emails and generate summaries of sales interactions, we need to evaluate 3 key things. Number 1 is understanding. A generative AI system that is fed with high-quality data generates high-quality insights. 2 is accuracy. Consider a domain-specific solution trained specifically on sales conversations rather than one trained on the entire internet. And if your team is already using those generic ones, they're probably releasing a lot of sensitive information out there to the ether. You may want to take a look at that. Which brings me to the third and final point, which is data protection. Keep an eye out for solutions that keep your PII private and compliant without exposing it unnecessarily. That's why we've been building systems like Gong that take into account enterprise-grade security and compliance. These are the things you should take into serious consideration when you're evaluating your next sales platform. Ask yourself, was it built on top of a legacy sales engagement tool that sends static emails to thousands of prospects? Perhaps it was built on top of a contact and account database that has nothing to do with AI or machine learning. Or is it a purpose-built AI system for sales designed to understand customer conversations from day one, which can now use generative AI to craft the perfect flow for each of your buyers, increasing your reps' productivity and providing a better customer experience? On behalf of Dan and myself, I want to thank you for joining us on this brief exploration of what the future of sales with AI will look like. The key point to remember is that as mundane, simple tasks get increasingly automated by AI, humans who remain on the cutting edge of their profession will continue to be in high demand. Teams that thoughtfully incorporate AI to automate away a lot of the busy work and guide their teams on prioritizing work they are uniquely qualified to perform will have a competitive advantage, at least until the others catch up by doing the same. So thank you all and enjoy the rest of your day.